Hey guys, so unfortunately this week's pod got a little bit overtaken by events with news that John Notre hurt his thumb and had surgery and will be out for several weeks. I just wanted to make note of that before you get into the meat of the show, that this was all recorded before news came about John Mateer's injury, and we'll have more discussion of that on the YouTube channel and over at TikTok. Okay, enjoy.
Welcome to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Chuck Conrad with a kickoff. Roy Evans, strong leg, end over end. Sanders takes it 1 yard deep to the end zone. Up the middle of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. He's at the 40, he's at 45, 50, 45, 40, 31, 34, 45, 40, 50, 10, 5, touchdown. Just like last year, a same story. Roll out.
Here's your host, Chris Houston.
All right, we're back with another episode of the Heisman Trophy podcast. We are 4 weeks into the college football season. It's been outstanding so far. September is fading, October is approaching. We're starting to get into the point of the season where some of the Heisman Trophy candidates we've been talking about will start to separate from the others. And our featured guest on this week's show might end up being one of those players. I'm talking about Notre Dame running back Jeremiyah Love, one of the best players in the country, perhaps the best running back. You know, Notre Dame has won 7 Heisman trophies, but has not won one since 1987, coming up on almost a 40-year drought for the Irish. Perhaps that will change this season. Also stopping by the podcast is Chris Vanini of theathletic.com. He's going to give us the lowdown on some of the coaching searches that are going on out there, plus the SCORE Act that is now pending before Congress, which could have a big impact on the future of college football. And then we'll close things out by chopping it up with Richard Johnson of CBSSports.com on a whole host of issues, including the use of artificial intelligence in college football. But first, I have some thoughts on the state of Heisman analysis in the early going. You know, way back in 2005, I invented the term September Heisman. Kind of used it as a cautionary tale to warn against premature proclamations when it came to deciding who was the Heisman frontrunner. It's quite common to see a player get off to a hot start in the non-conference schedule against lesser competition, and this creates a boomlet of sorts for the player, whether it's in the media or in the betting markets. And the thing is, those statistics matter, just not yet. Almost all Heisman Trophy winners have strong Septembers, but of course not everybody who has a strong September wins the Heisman Trophy. You can lose the Heisman Trophy in September. It's a little bit harder to win it. The question is inevitably, how sticky are those performances in the early part of the season? The last Heisman Trophy winner whose September performances really carried over throughout the rest of the season and helped them win the Heisman Trophy was Lamar Jackson back in 2016. What he did in that season's first month helped establish him as a credible candidate, and he never let go of that. And we saw how that turned out. Just something to think about as we move forward. Just want to remind everybody to please like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell your family about the Heisman Trophy podcast. We talk to the best players in the country on this show. We try to delve into important college football issues with some of the cutting-edge thinkers in the sport. You're not going to see too many hot takes here to try to drive engagement. We are trying to shed light rather than bring heat. Also, if you prefer looking at moving pictures of these interviews, you can go to our YouTube channel, also to TikTok, and you can like and subscribe and review and comment there as well.
This is Archie Griffin, 1974, 1975's Heisman Trophy winner, and you're listening to the official Heisman podcast.
Jeremiyah Love is a 6', 214-pound junior running back from St. Louis, Missouri. Last year, he led the Irish with 1,125 rushing yards and 17 touchdowns, averaged nearly 7 yards per carry, had another 28 receptions along with 2 more touchdowns. He was a huge part of Notre Dame's run to the final of the college football playoff last year, and he's been off to a bit of a slow start this year, but he rounded into great shape last week against Purdue. 19 carries, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. Indeed, it looks to me like he and the Irish offense are starting to hit their stride. And we were able to catch up with him on Tuesday after practice ahead of the big game against Arkansas in Fayetteville. And that game will also feature our previous guest on the Heisman Trophy podcast, Talon Green. Jeremiyah Love, thanks so much for coming on the Heisman Trophy podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You know, the Irish bounced back last Saturday against Purdue, and you in particular had a great game, a career high 157 yards to go with 2 touchdowns after 2 tough losses to Miami and Texas A&M. What's the mood like around the team now that you're back on track?
Everybody's, ready for our next opportunity to get back out there and play the game that we love. It's great to get a win. We put a lot of work into last week's preparation wise to, go out there and make sure that we're executing the way that we need to in order to help our team, achieve team glory. But yeah, the vibes around the locker room are good. Coaches, good. Everybody's hyped up for the next opportunity to go out there and play the game.
All right. Well, last year you guys were upset by Northern Illinois in week 2, and you went on to play in the national title game. Does that early setback from last year help you guys stay calm and focused this time around, knowing, there's still so much to play for, including a playoff berth?
Oh yeah. I would say we take lessons from last year and incorporate those lessons into this year. And obviously, last year we lost Northern Illinois and made it to the national title or made it to the national championship. This year we didn't start off, the way we wanted to, but that doesn't mean we put our heads down and continue to just stay complacent. We say no. We're going to get better every single week, every single day. Going to put our heads down and work as hard as we can. Do the same thing that we did last season because at the end of the day, you don't know the future. The future's uncertain, and our dreams, our hopes and dreams of making it to whatever the playoffs or national championship or whatever it may be are still alive. And, we as a team have to acknowledge that and just keep going and keep fighting. Just keep finding ways to elevate. Just keep going.
What are the coaches telling you now ahead of this week's game against Arkansas?
They're a very good team. We're going into a hostile environment. We've been in a hostile environment before, so we know what it's going to, be like. This is actually our first time, us and Arkansas's first time, meeting and playing against each other. So there's a lot at stake here. We want to make a very good impression on them. And I'm guessing they want to do the same with us. But they're telling us, we got to make sure they're preparing the right ways, to make sure that we're going to be able to handle the pressures of being in a hostile environment. We did handle it very well, in my opinion, against Miami. We're going to do the same this week. And, we're just going to go out there and give it our all.
Very few running backs have a signature move like you do. It's the hurdle. I've never seen a back hurdle defenders the way you do it. Where did that come from?
It came from last year's Northern Illinois game. The same safety was just ankle biting the whole game. And we went into halftime. I told one of my teammates, one of my fellow running backs, Jabron, I was like, if he comes from my knees or ankles again, I'm going to hurdle him. And opportunity came. I jumped, completely cleared him. And that's when I learned, I could completely jump over another person. And I just continued to do it. I developed it into different types of hurdles. I got a little sideways hurdle that I like to do. But yeah, I'm hoping to continue to evolve when it comes to hurdling. Hopefully, one day I can pull off a backwards hurdle, maybe.
It feels like you've been kind of influential in this regard. I mean, I don't know if it's just, happenstance, but you started hurdling people. Other people are hurdling people. Every week you watch a game and someone's hurdling someone. Does it feel like people are kind of following your lead there?
The ego in me likes to think so. I feel like, some people may watch my game and I would hope that they would think like he plays pretty free. He goes out there and, just tries things. That's literally kind of what I do sometimes, just go out there and try moves. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I play with a certain type of freedom and just, wanting to, make spectacular plays. And I feel like other people, hopefully they see that, and maybe that could be why a lot of people are starting to hurdle.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you mentioned the freedom. Some coaches, I imagine some running back coaches might be like, follow the hole, do this, go according to the plan. But maybe some are like recognizing that when you have a player who can improvise in those situations, that they don't want to mess with that. Is that how it is with you and your coach?
I would say so, yeah. He encourages us, each and every one of the running backs to go out there and be ourselves. Don't be robots. That's what he says. And I really like that because I want to go out there and be a robot. I don't want to go out there and be forced to only do this one thing. I want to play free. I want to be able to express myself on a football field, and that's what I try to do. And my coaches encourage me to do that, which I really love them and respect them for. But yeah, I just go out there and play free and just have fun.
Do you express yourself in like off the field in similar ways, or does it find its way on the field? This expressive nature of yours.
I would say it really just finds its way, on the field. Outside of football, I'm just really just laid back guy. Like I don't like to do too much. Like my thought of having fun is sitting in my room playing video games or watching anime. Like I don't like to do pretty much anything else. So on the football field, like I just feel more alive. I feel like I'm able to be more of my true self, I guess you could say.
Right.
And yeah, just go out there and try to express that, by just playing free and doing whatever I want to do, and just trying to make plays. But also, when I have to, put my foot in the ground, get north, get the yards that I need to get to. But I feel like I just have a unique play style, and my coaches see it as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of I don't want to say you're upright or long, kind of a long strider. Like most long striders don't really have the giddy up like that and the sudden burst that you have. You seem to have a good mix of, the fundamentals, having, the times you want to put your head down and get the hard yards, you do that. The times you need to be spectacular, you do that as well. Is that is that a natural instinct for you, or is that something you wanted to be this complete back and this is what resulted?
It's just a natural thing. I've always been a upright runner. People say. I feel like it's more of an advantage than a disadvantage. I'm able to pretty much do it all. If I need to, get low and truck somebody or get the hard yards, I can. But a lot of times, I'm trying to, make moves and make some spectacular plays because that's who I am in my world. I'm a playmaker and. I want to do things that other people can look to and say, I want to play like he plays. Like I want to express myself how he expresses himself. Like I want to be, it's my true self. Like football is me. Like without football, I don't know how I would, express myself and relieve some of the things I need to relieve. But yeah.
When did you start playing running back? Was it the position you always wanted to play? And this attitude you have, would it be the same with any other position, or do you think running back helped you have that attitude?
I've always played running back. I grew up playing running back and corner. Played corner all the way through Little League, all the way through middle school, and then high school I played corner my freshman year. They moved me to safety. Did not want to play safety, so stopped playing defense in general. They just stuck to running back, and yeah, it's just growing up, I've always had to, make moves and create my own space and create my own opportunities. And that kind of just stuck with me as I grew up. And I feel like that's the reason why I played the way I play today. Obviously, I got guys that can create opportunities for me. Like I got a great offensive line, got great receivers, got a great quarterback who's smart to put me in the best positions possible to succeed. Got great coaches. But also, have this uniqueness about myself that I attained while just growing up, just making plays and doing spectacular things, which I feel like just complement each other. Like I got great coaching staff, great players, great people around me, and also just got a unique skill set that, just shows itself on the field.
Yeah, I love the confidence there. I'm going to ask you a few questions now about what it's like to be a running back for Notre Dame. The first time you really got hit in a college practice, what was it like, and what were you thinking afterwards?
Oh man, I remember it too. It was freshman year. It was at the end of fall camp. I think it's what we call a jersey scrimmage, and it was inside zone. It was against Sneed. I ran a gap, smacked me like head, seeing stars. It was a welcome to college football moment for sure. But I got back up and just kept playing. Ended up making a big play freshman year in a jersey scrimmage. Yeah, rest is history. But
Yeah.
yeah,
The first time you ran out under the lights at Notre Dame Stadium, what did your body feel like in that moment?
it was it was crazy to me. Being able to run out and just see all the people in the stands. It was our first home game, against my freshman year against Tennessee State. Um, Went out there, saw all the fans, just everybody screaming, um, seeing the gold helmets. It was a special feeling. It was a great feeling. It was a wow, I'm really here type feeling.
Uh,
I
and,
couldn't believe it.
and you got a touchdown in your first game too, right?
Yeah, yeah, I did. That was even greater moment, being able to celebrate with my guys and then seeing all the people in the stands shouting, screaming, going crazy, and
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like there's no greater feeling than scoring a touchdown in your home stadium.
Describe a run where time seemed to slow down. What did you notice as the play happened?
I would say my Penn State run last year. Like everything seemed like it was going in slow motion. And I had no doubt that I was going to score. I got tripped up, caught my balance. This little corner or whatever came and tried to tackle me, just muscling through, and I'm just seeing everything in slow motion. I see, I think it was Dion pushed. He pushed the corner into me. I dodged him, and then I felt somebody coming to wrap around, tuck the ball. Like everything was happening in slow motion, and throughout that whole time, I literally had no doubt that I was going to score, and I ended up scoring. Just willed my way into getting the touchdown, but that was definitely a play where everything felt like it was in slow motion, and that I understood what was going to happen. It was
Yeah.
almost meant to happen. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. What's the hardest part about being a running back?
the hardest part about being a running back, I would say, just having to be able to recognize all the blitzes, then having to block these huge linebackers, and then also, we go out and make a big play. We coming back. We may have to block a 250 linebacker the next play.
Yeah.
And we got to do that, and we got to do it. We got to succeed. There is no, oh, I lost on this play. You gotta win every single time.
Yeah.
I would say as a running back, we got a lot of responsibilities, and some people may think that our job is easy, but at the end of the day, I really think that it's really not. We got a lot to do, a lot on our shoulder,
Seems like
not a
it.
lot of error.
All right, take me to the split second before the handoff. What's your emotion? Are you calm? You nervous? You fired up?
I'm very calm, kind of just in a zone type feeling. Just reading what I need to read, and then whenever the hole opens, or say if there's a guy on the hole, there's just that burst that comes out of me, to like a fired up feeling, oh, I gotta go make a play,
Uh-huh.
just just chill, then it goes hot.
Yeah.
Say icy.
Have you ever forgotten what to do when a play is called?
Um, yeah, yeah, I have.
What happened?
It was a protection play. And in protection, so much is going through our minds as running backs, like who's coming up blitz, why is he here, is the safety stacked over this nickel, or so much is going on in the play, and sometimes I forget the route that I have to run if nobody comes. And a lot of times people do come, so thank God I didn't have to get out and run a route that was probably going to be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some times where I'm just processing so much where I forget what I need to do if nobody comes.
Sometimes a little bit of overload, I guess, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
After a big game, when you finally get a quiet minute, where do you go on campus and what are you thinking about?
I just go back to my own space. I go back to my apartment, sit in my room, and watch film of the game, evaluate how I did, just think about what I need to do better immediately. I'm always criticizing myself, always just looking for ways that I can get better. So after every game, I just like to sit in my own space and just evaluate how I did, and then immediately just look for ways I can do better the next time.
Yeah.
And yeah, just my own space.
first two games kind of got off to a slow start. Were you hard on yourself? Were you doubting things, or what did you go through trying to get back on track this past week against Purdue?
I would say there was never a doubt in my mind, like that I, had the ability to do the things that I needed to do. It's just a feeling I had of like, what can I do better to make sure that on this play, like I'm having success, or like I'm doing what I need to do in order to help my team win. The first 2 weeks were hard. First game didn't go like how I wanted it to. Didn't get the yards that I wanted to get. Didn't get a touchdown. Didn't have the carries that I wanted. But at the end of the day, like I had an opportunity to make a play throughout the times that I got the ball, and each of those times I didn't do what I needed to do, or I wasn't in a position to. But I just evaluate that, and then I'll go on to the next game in Texas A&M. I had plenty of opportunities to do what I needed to do. I made a couple plays, had 2 touchdowns, but I always feel like I can do better. So I evaluated that game, and then heading into Purdue. Even still, I feel like there were things that I could have did to have even more success. Could have scored more touchdowns. Could have made more people miss. Like, I'm never complacent. Like, I'm just always looking for ways to get better. Because like I want to be perfect. I know it'll never be a reality, but I want to get very, very close to that. And my way of doing that is constantly criticizing myself, never being okay with, having just one explosive play. I want every play to be explosive.
Have you always been like that, or did someone teach you that?
It's just always been me. Like it's just who I am. Like I'm not okay with, me going out there and say I get like 10 carries. I'm not okay with me going out there and scoring a touchdown and having maybe 30 yards. Like that's not okay with me. Like each one of those carries, I want to take it to the crib. That's how I think in my head. I get 10 carries, I want to score 10 touchdowns or whatever it may be. I want to do the best that I can and do what I need to do every single opportunity that I get. Make the best out of every single opportunity. That's how I've always been. That's how I've always thought. And the people that I'm surrounded with can constantly reinforce that thinking. Like my mom, my dad, just go out there and be yourself. Go out there and help your team. My coaches, go out there and be yourself. Like it's constantly reinforced every day throughout my life.
Yeah. What's a talent you have that no one knows about?
I can play the piano.
Oh.
I learned to play the piano in middle school.
What's your go-to song?
So I do not play traditional piano songs. I play anime music. I'm
Is that
big,
right?
yeah, I love anime. Song I can say I can play. It's from my favorite anime. It's called 7 Deadly Sins. This song is one of my favorite songs of literally like anime, like history of all time. And I don't like. It's been a while since I watched 7 Deadly Sins. I don't know the name of the song, but I know it's like Nanatsu no Taizai something. Yeah, I can play it. It's a pretty long song. It's like
you just
slow.
learned it by ear, or did you get the music?
YouTube can teach you a lot of things.
Right. And finally, when fans talk about you years from now, what do you think they're going to say about Jeremiyah Love, Notre Dame running back?
I hope that they say I was a good football player. I hope that they say that I was special. I made a lot of spectacular plays. I hope that they say I was one of the best to, come out of Notre Dame. And I hope those things, but I got to go out there and put in the work for those people to believe those things at the end of the day. Got to go out there and have a great rest of my season. Got to go out there and perform every single game the way that I want to perform. And yeah.
Well, Jeremiyah Love, thank you so much for coming on the show. Good luck against Arkansas this coming weekend and the rest of the season. And who knows, maybe we'll see you in New York down the road.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Oh, man, what an absolutely cool dude. Jeremiyah Love is. How could you not root for that guy? Let me tell you, there are just some amazing young men out there playing college football. So many impressive players that have come on this show. Being a college football player is hard. And I know players are getting paid now, but it's still hard. These guys work their butts off, and one of the great byproducts of that is that we get to enjoy football.
Hey guys, this is Barry Sanders, the 1988 Heisman Trophy winner, and you are listening to the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
Did you know that the Heisman Trophy Trust has donated more than $20 million to a huge variety of charity-based groups via its Heisman Trophy Fund for Youth Development? That's right, the fund has helped countless charitable organizations that uses sports to engage underprivileged young people in educational activities. If you are part of an organization or know of one that would like to apply for funding, visit Heisman.com and click on the charities link at the top of the site. Chris Vanini has covered national college football issues and the coaching carousel for The Athletic since 2017. He was the co-winner of the Football Writers Association of America Beat Writer of the Year Award in 2018. He previously was the managing editor at coachingsearch.com. So he is the guy to talk to when it comes to what's going on with coaching searches. Chris, welcome to the Heisman Trophy podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, speaking of coaching searches, we have two recent firings over at UCLA, over at Virginia Tech. We have open positions there. What is the latest with those coaching searches that you're hearing, and what direction do you think these schools are ultimately going to go in?
Yeah, I mean, it's September, so there's still a long way to go, and pretty much anybody you'd want to hire or talk to is going to be busy for the next couple of months. You go through back channels, talk to agents, try to see who'd be interested. I think it's notable at Virginia Tech, though, that athletic director Whit Babcock had said a couple months ago maybe, to his board of visitors, their board of trustees, they're like, hey, we don't have a big enough budget to compete at the highest level of college football. And if we don't have that, we may be left behind in whatever the future of college football is. Well, this week, a new budget sent to the board basically says we are going to have an influx of 30, 40, $50 million annually for the next several years. So we are upping that football budget. That coincidentally will make the job more attractive to people moving forward. So both of these schools kind of, you're unsure about their financial situations and how inviting that'll be in terms of who the candidates will be. But there are going to be a lot of coaching jobs open in this cycle. There's several coaches still fighting for their job every week, and it's going to be a pretty eventful carousel come November. Yeah,
it's sort of a marker that's being laid down for these schools. Are you serious about football or not? Virginia Tech's like, hey, presto, we found the money. We have the money for this. So they don't want to be left out. They don't want to be left behind. And what about UCLA? Is there a sense of urgency for the Bruins to make sure that they aren't left behind as well?
Well, it's still kind of wait and see on that. They've got a couple of Rich Boosters, Casey Wasserman, kind of probably involved in a lot of that stuff there. But it's a similar thing. I mean, Chip Kelly left the head coaching job at UCLA to be the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. So what is a commitment? Part of that was a commitment to the program financially that was or wasn't there, NIL and that stuff. Part of it was that Chip Kelly didn't really want to do a lot of that stuff. Yeah. So Deshaun Foster was hired at a very difficult time, basically after the carousel had happened and you found a quick, cheap option. It didn't work. Now you're going to run a real coaching search. It's still a Big Ten job. It can pay well. As much as financial straits the athletic department is in, that's still going to be very appealing, an LA job in the Big Ten.
We're talking to Chris Vanini at theathletic.com. Recently, you wrote about the ACC moving to the 9-game schedule. What do you think the ramifications of that change are going to be for the ACC going forward?
Well, they're going to have to probably axe a number of non-conference games. A lot of these schools have 2 Power 4 series in the future, and that may have to change. And what it does is it brings mostly universal scheduling between the Power 4 conferences. All 4 of them will now be playing 9 conference games. 3 of them also require another Power 4 game, but the Big Ten does not. And so we're going to be in this weird spot where across the conferences, the scheduling is pretty uniform, but within the conferences, it's more unequal than ever. I think we see that in the SEC and the Big Ten right now, where it's like, well, if you got a favorable schedule draw in a given year, that really can change the outlook of your season, because we have conferences with 16, 18 teams, things we've never had before, and there's just simply not enough room to fit everybody. So that's going to be an interesting setup. And the ACC is going to be unique because they have 17 teams.
Yeah.
You can't do 9 games for everybody. The math doesn't work.
Yeah.
So what you'll likely end up getting is one, most likely, team playing 8 conference games plus 2 Power 4 games. In that scenario, seems likely conference winning percentage will determine the standings, as was the case in 2020 when everybody played an unequal number of games. But there are some things still to be kind of figured out. Do you count Notre Dame for that team? Maybe it's hard to say. They haven't fully decided all of it, but they have signaled that this is where they're going to go.
If you had to bet in 10 years, are the ACC and the Big 12 around?
Around, yes. What they look like, I don't know. I don't even think the Big Ten and the SEC know, because all of this is determined on the media market, the TV market. How much TV money are you going to get? And we don't know what the TV market's going to look like in 5 years. They don't know. Streaming's coming up, but it seems like streaming may have plateaued. Where exactly is the money? People have been wondering for 20 years, when is the sports TV bubble going to burst?
Yeah.
It's not bursting for football, so that has been good so far. But, there may not be much room left in the SEC and the Big Ten. You'll make room for a Notre Dame. You'll probably make room for a North Carolina. But, it's not clear after that how much you're getting unless you're fully leaving everything else behind. And there hasn't been an indication yet that people want to do that.
Speaking of media rights, there's the SCORE Act that is before Congress. You've written about Cody Campbell, the billionaire, former Texas Tech player who has his own ideas that he's pushing. What's the status of SCORE, and how do you think that's all going to shake out?
Well, they had hoped to put it in front of Congress a couple of weeks ago, and they didn't. So that tells you it's not in a position they were hoping it was, which is you don't put something up for a vote until you know you have the votes. And the expectation was that they would. Cody Campbell, the Texas Tech former player, board member, has the ear of Donald Trump, has pushed back against it because he wants to add essentially an antitrust exemption for TV rights, as in all the conferences could pool their rights together and sell them as one to the broadcasters, which is what the NFL does, which is what pro sports do. Pro sports have an antitrust exemption from the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961. And so that has been paused for now. There are some people uncertain about it, but I think the big picture, the NCAA, the Big Ten, the SEC, they're like, look, this thing maybe is not perfect, but we have to get something done and then maybe adjust it down the line. They want to have the ability to set rules on transfers, on athlete employment, on various things, basically turning the House settlement into law, codifying that, giving the NCAA the power to enforce that. The NCAA or some other organization, or whatever you want to call it. So back and forth on that now. We have a potential government shutdown coming up. We have a national defense bill coming up. People in Congress that I've talked to have said for a while that, we don't know if we're going to have time to get to this in the fall with so many things going on. And by the way, that's just passing it through the House.
Right.
It doesn't have enough votes to pass the Senate, where you need to get 60. So still kind of wait and see on that.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk some football. You were recently at the Oklahoma-Auburn game in Norman. Is that correct?
Yes. Second time up there. I live in Dallas, so it's not too far of a drive.
Yeah, not too bad. I'm curious about your impressions of John Mateer. He was our opening guest for our third season a few weeks ago. Looking at him, watching him around the program, hearing what people say, do you think he has it, as they like to call it, that ephemeral it?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure. I was very curious how he would look coming from Washington State, and 2 big games against Michigan and Auburn. He has very much delivered. I think he is the narrow front runner for the Heisman Trophy right now because of some of how he's played in some of those big games, but he is just relentless. He makes plays at a very fun level. He kind of reminds you of Baker Mayfield a couple of years ago, the way he can scramble, his toughness, because Oklahoma can't really run the ball. The only way they've been able to run the ball is John Mateer doing it himself.
Yeah.
And you hope he can hold up physically through that. But he is a lot of fun. He's kind of taking on the name Money Mateer. Fans are calling him that. Fans are doing like the old Johnny Manziel money sign. He enjoys it. So it's something we may be hearing more as the year goes on.
I think you've produced the best quote so far in college football reporting this year, that I'm going to church in the morning, from John Mateer. Speaking of the offense at Oklahoma that you're talking about, do you think the Sooners have enough pieces to complement Mateer? Like, what's up with Jaden Knott? He hasn't produced like they expected. It's one thing to have the system in place and the quarterback to run it, but can the receivers and the running backs provide the support that Mateer is going to need for a serious Heisman run?
The receivers, the tight ends have been there. Koenig, the tight end, has played very well this year. The running game just hasn't been there, and whether that's a combination of the running backs or the offensive line, probably a combination of both. Jaden Knott, obviously the very talented Cal running back who came in. He seems like he's a mix of banged up and still kind of learning the whole system and everything. I mean, he came after spring practice, so and he was banged up, so he didn't have as much time with everybody. But yeah, it's kind of been a bit of a mystery. They haven't totally said exactly what's going on out there with him, but what we thought would be a big part of the offense has not been, and it becomes glaring when the team as a whole can't run the ball. So we'll see.
All right, we're going to wind things up with 4 burning Heisman questions, because questions are always burning in college football. We talked about John Mateer. I'm curious, why are people so skeptical about Jaden Mayava, the quarterback at USC? He leads the nation in passing efficiency after 4 games. He's a Lincoln Riley quarterback. It used to be that if you're a Lincoln Riley quarterback, you have a sort of an automatic advantage going in, and there's this perception of that. Riley had maybe a couple quarterbacks who didn't really pan out in recent years, but it looks like Mayava is going back to that old form. What gives on that perception, do you think?
I think one, they haven't played anybody notable in front of a big audience. They kind of beat 3 very overmatched teams, and then they played Michigan State, but it was an 11 p.m. Eastern kickoff, so a lot of people didn't watch it. I think a lot of the Heisman and the voting, especially early on, just comes down to have enough people watch this player yet. And in Mayava's case, I don't think they have. I also think some people maybe feel a little bit burned that Miller Moss didn't pan out. Like you said, every Lincoln Riley quarterback's, winning the Heisman, or they're up there, and then suddenly their one wasn't. And so maybe kind of people want to take their time. But Mayava has looked really good, but they have Illinois and Michigan, I think, coming up. And so that'll be a chance for him to really kind of make an impact on a bigger stage.
Yeah. Another player I'm curious about, Trinidad Chambliss over at Mississippi. Ferris State transfer. Did Lane Kiffin stumble upon a great one accidentally? He's come in and he has just fit the profile of the kind of quarterback that Heisman voters have been very attracted to during this spread quarterback era. Big passing numbers to go with big rushing numbers. Is Lane going to stick with him when Austin Simmons is healthy? Does he have a quarterback controversy, or is he just going to go full bore with Trinidad Chambliss? And if he does, do you think Chambliss has a chance, despite not starting out the season as starter, to make a big push for the Heisman?
Yeah, I think you got to stick with Chambliss right now. Austin Simmons still appears pretty banged up, so once he's healthy, I'm not sure. But Chambliss, transfer from Division II Ferris State, which is really a Division II powerhouse. They've won 3 of the last 4 national championships there. Similar deal. If Chambliss, if you play I don't have their schedule in front of me, but in Alabama and LSU, one of those kind of big name programs, and you light it up there, suddenly you pop up on everybody's radar. I think the Arkansas game was a little bit weird. They pulled that one out. Then Tulane, probably not as many voters watched that game as it happened against a group of 5 opponent, even though Tulane, I think, is a good team. So, yeah, I mean, it's possible. Lane Kiffin may have stumbled into a really, really good player you may want to stick with. That's what I mean. That's where the term Wally pipped comes from.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But Trinidad Chambliss, very fun to watch, very fun name to say, and that usually helps your case.
Yeah. Fun name, fun story coming from Ferris State. That kind of stuff helps. Okay. The Penn State Oregon game this weekend. Oregon is traveling to Happy Valley. Is that a Heisman elimination game for Dante Moore and Drew Allard potentially?
I wouldn't say elimination, but I think it's really more the first opportunity for them to make the statement. Neither of these teams have played anybody notable. Oklahoma State, who Oregon destroyed, is nothing. So I haven't watched much Penn State this year because they've played FIU and Villanova, and there hasn't been a reason to watch them. So I'm very curious. How does Drew Allard really look a year after falling just short of the national championship game, not having Tyler Warren as that safety valve? How does Dante Moore really look like in that road environment in Happy Valley for the first time? So I wouldn't say elimination, but I think if one of these 2 has a big game and wins this game, they may jump up to be the favorite, because there isn't really a clear-cut favorite right now. It's probably John Mateer, maybe Carson Beck, but nobody's like really, neither of them have real Heisman momentum yet. It's only September. But you put that environment, that stage, and if one of them puts up a huge game, they may shoot to the top of being the front runner by the end of the month.
Yeah. Well, there's another player who is very interesting to me, Tommy Castellanos of Florida State, already has a big win over Alabama under his belt. And then there's a game against Miami, of course, the traditional matchup with Miami down the road. But other than that, not like any huge hurdles. Of course, you just never know what's going to happen down the road. He's got Gus Malzahn to tutor him and to call the plays, and Malzahn is renowned for creating quarterbacks who are maybe one-dimensional and making them really good in one area and kind of bringing them along in another. We've seen it many times. Is he for real? Is he a legitimate candidate? And are we going to be talking about him more and more as the season goes on, do you think?
I mean, if you beat Miami in 2 weeks, absolutely. And it's interesting, like the last handful of years, the Heisman Trophy has not turned out the way it previously had, which was the best player on the best team. You know, it's often where it was going. But Caleb Williams at USC, Jaden Daniels at LSU, Travis Hunter, Colorado, those teams weren't in the playoff. You know, like they didn't make it there. And so they kind of had different unique situations. And so does Florida State need to be in the national championship picture, make the playoff to be a Heisman candidate? Maybe, maybe not.
Necessarily, yeah.
Yeah, but if you beat Miami and you have Alabama and Miami wins on your resume 5-6 weeks into the season, yeah, we may have to start talking about that, especially because nobody else has been, you know, looking like Ashton Genty did last year, where you were just blown away by his numbers every week. So yeah, I think it's wide open really right now. You could tell me 10 to 15 players and I'd say, yeah, I think they've got a shot at it. Just like the national championship too. Like that's wide open. Heisman's wide open. It makes for a very, very fun second month of the season.
Absolutely. Well, Chris Vanini, thanks for joining the Heisman Trophy podcast. Please tell our listeners where they can find you on social media and elsewhere.
I'm at Chris Vanini on everything on social media. You can read my work on theathletic.com as well as the Bunch Formation College Football Podcast.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your insights. Really appreciate it. And have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
The Heisman is handed out every December, but the history of the trophy lives year-round at Heisman.com. Home to the most iconic trophy in sports, Heisman.com tells the story of all 90 of our winners and features news, bios, and statistics on all your favorite Heisman heroes. Heisman.com also highlights our Heisman humanitarians, the many charities supported by the Heisman Trust, and so much more. Make Heisman.com your first stop for all things Heisman.
CBSSports.com writer Richard Johnson is co-host of the Split Zone Duo podcast. He's contributed a ton of high-level college football content at a variety of outlets over the years. Welcome to the Heisman Trophy podcast, Richard.
It is great to be here. I don't have my stiff arming trophy in the background, but I do have a picture with the Heisman. Always, obviously, a soft spot in my heart for the award. Used to watch the ceremony with my mom when I was a kid. That's like one of the only football things she actually cared about. I don't know why. She like likes the human interest element of the award show and kind of learning where their players are from and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
you only have to pay attention to one player, and so you could focus on that player, and you get the personal story. Would you consider yourself a college football traditionalist then? Are you a longtime fan?
Yeah, well, so I grew up in Gainesville. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida. I grew up going to Florida games. So Florida is not actually a tradition-rich program. Florida is pretty nouveau riche as it goes.
Yeah.
Basically, showed up in 1985 with the other the other two Florida schools.
Sure.
To make for the Big Three. So I'm not that tradition laden, but I like the SEC schedule is going to come out as we record this tonight, and Florida's not going to play Tennessee annually anymore, at least for a few years. And that's just going to be kind of weird. That's just going to be an odd thing to think about. So I do have some tradition kind of in how I view the sport.
Sure. There's a story that you wrote that is the lead story on the CBS Sports college football page about artificial intelligence in college football, the use of it. And it struck me, what really was great reading it is that, so many of these types of stories kind of buy hook, line, and sinker the premise of it's not just AI, but maybe the large language models themselves, the chat GPTs. And as we all know, who've used that extensively, I feel like these are tools that maybe get you like 80% of the way there in some cases. And then the rest of it, you sort of have to figure out yourself. Go into some detail about what you found out about what schools are doing with these models.
Yeah, I think the big thing is you talk about kind of using it in your personal life, right? So I'm not the biggest, Chat GPT or for instance, like Microsoft Copilot is the one that we get with our work emails through Outlook, right? So I sort of play around in Copilot a little bit, and something little like, can it do my expense report, right? Like I go on a trip and I plug the receipts in, blah, blah, blah. And then it gets the total wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if the computer can't read 15 receipts and do some calculator math, and I have to go back check it, what's the point of the automation if I can't trust the automation?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't even get near the legitimate environmental concerns. You can ask people who live in Memphis, for instance, about what's going on, or all the things that are going on with the fact that basically if you put AI in a press release as a publicly traded company, Wall Street will flock to you. It's something of a beacon to Wall Street and investors, and it's the next thing because, as we kind of talk about our economy and all this sort of stuff, we're looking for 10x, and AI, at least in theory, promises you limitless potential. And so it's something that obviously, because of the upside potential, investors are going to flock to it.
Yeah.
So putting all that to the side, you can't ignore it, and you can't pretend like it's a bug. It's a feature of our future in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But in what way is it going to be part of our everyday? And that's kind of the thing. I'm fascinated, obviously, with the stories that you may read in the New York Times of somebody falls in love with a chatbot or whatever. I didn't want to necessarily do that, but you'd be silly to think that college athletic departments or college personnel departments or coaches aren't at least playing around with new technology. They all do. And especially the companies that they work with, the tech companies that they work with for different things, are absolutely using the technology. So I wanted to kind of go in it with a skeptical eye, because I am personally very skeptical of this new technology and how it's in like literally every app, even though basically nobody has ever asked for it.
They're forcing it on you, right? And if it's so great, why do you have to force it, right?
All right, and it's being marketed, and it's everything around. So where does it fit into college sports and sports business? Because that is just it's here and not coming. It's here. So, I talked to a few people, and what's interesting about college football personnel departments is different to a coaching staff. A lot of people with college football personnel departments did not play. So they come from an ops background or a data science background or a recruiting background.
So they want that edge, right? They want that little extra edge.
Yeah. And they're those people are more apt to think differently about the game overall, but they're more apt to use tech tools, right?
Sure.
Like they're not, the crusty 65-year-old coach has been doing this for 30 years and is
Yeah.
still has never sent an email. What was the story? Like Nick Saban doesn't send his own emails; he just like dictates his emails, for
Yeah.
instance. So it kind of went at it through that vein. I went to the Personnel Symposium in Nashville in August, the beginning of August, and that is sponsored by, or presenting sponsor was Teamworks, and Teamworks is a massive data company within college and pro sports. And they are into AI, and they were pitching their AI tools to college athletic departments for a fee. It ain't cheap.
Of course.
And so kind of poking some people there, asking some people how they use it. And I was surprised at some of the small ways. Like I had a staffer tell me like, yeah, like I run our texts and our graphics through ChatGPT to like spell check and that sort of stuff. Little ways, little things.
It seems like very small potatoes at this point, what you're talking about.
I there are some, and the thing that I did not want to do in the story, and I hit at it at the end, which is like it's very fashionable in tech forward stories to do this thing where you say like, oh, within 5 to 10 years, AI will drive your car, or AI will coach your team, or AI will be your quarterback. Like I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I sort of get at a little bit of what the future is. I talked to some coaches, especially at the high school level, who are, think that like this technology can give coaches a leg up, that you can run your script through ChatGPT, for instance, and it'll spit out the first 15 plays that you have for a game.
Yeah.
And then like in casual conversation, like I was asking a data guy, Sean Padden, who is Nebraska's director of strategic analytics. He's quoted in the story, and I was just talking to him about it. And he's working on an AI tool in-house to help them scrape the internet to find information on transfer portal targets and recruits. That's a functional use case.
Yeah.
But I was talking to him like, do you ever see a day where you'd have an iPad next to you in the press or in the coach's box, and you ask it to spit out the first 15 plays? And he was like, Madden, the video game, can do that right now. And I just like, I remember I laughed so hard when he said it to me.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a key of AI in society overall.
Sure.
Like, is it software for software's sake, or is it actually something that's functional and useful that I can use? We talk about all these different tools like, Slack, for instance, or whatever, all these different tools. And it's like, well, is that better than email? Like we deal with it in that vein, all of us in our personal
There's
life.
always the latest thing. There's always the latest thing that people get sold on. And it just seems to me that you have to be accurate, like at a much higher rate than it is now. Like you can't have something that is, like you said, not adding up the numbers in your expense report correctly and then depend on it to do things.
I love how like they have this term like AI hallucinations. Like, no, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Like whatever the information is that is the, in air quotes, hallucination, it's just incorrect.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and so I laugh about it because at the end of the day, ChatGPT is just fancy autocorrect.
Sure.
Like it is what it is.
Yeah. And it's going to be a while probably before there's any major impact in college football. But let's switch gears to this year's college football. We finished week 4. It's been a very interesting first third of the season. What do you think is the story of the season so far in college football?
Well, I think the story right now is we don't really have a bona fide top team. Like last year, it was Ohio State coming into the season, right? Last year, everybody was thinking, all right, Ohio State's going to be the number 1 team in the country. They're going to make a run, undefeated run in the national championship. At least that's what I thought. They haven't done it, or they didn't do it the way that everybody thought they were going to do it. But they have gone on to make the run. I am interested in how this year sets up because it seems a little more wide open at the top. Now, personally, I think Oregon's the best team in the country. We're going to find out on Saturday night when they finally play a team with a pulse and they play Penn State. So, and we will also see if Penn State is for real, obviously in the Big Ten. But overall, I think it's pretty wide open at the top. I think Clemson's a little bit worse than we expected. So I think LSU is potentially not as good as you would expect. OU looks pretty good. Obviously, Miami, what Miami did to my dear old alma mater Saturday night was not so great for Florida fans and Florida people. But Miami obviously looks pretty good. But how good is Notre Dame really, as we've seen Notre Dame over the last couple of weeks? So how good is Miami's best win? So I think right now we're still calibrating who's really good. And I don't think I have a lock, stock, and barrel answer to that question right now like I did this last September, if you'd asked me that question.
You mentioned Ohio State from last year. They weren't looking that great early on in the year, right? They most talented team. I think consensus-wise, people thought they were the most talented team, and they had great draft numbers, and they lost 2 games, including to Michigan at the end. And they still came back and won the national title. They were the team that got hot towards the end. All the talent came together and they rolled through the playoffs. And ironically, not having that bye in the first week helped them. And it seems like the playoff and the way it's structured might be having some unintended consequences. Like, I guess what I want to ask you is, how much sense of urgency is there for a team like Ohio State or a team like an Oregon or any of these elite teams that are perceived as having high levels of talent? How much of sense of urgency is there for them to go undefeated in college football anymore? Right?
Yeah,
Because you can win. We've only had, before last year, there's been only one other year where a 2-loss team has won a national title. That was 2007 with LSU. And suddenly, bam, first year of 12-team playoff, we get another one. So are we going to see more of that?
One of my favorite things about the concept of a 12-team playoff or a 14/16, which it looks like we're barreling towards, is that you can take a loss or two and still make the dance. I do not really look fondly upon the era where we just argued about who was the national champion. I would like to see the national champion play themselves to the national championship. And I understand single elimination playoffs are not perfect. Sometimes you are going to get a wonky national champion. That's okay. Happens in college basketball. It's all right. But overall, especially in the sport of football, you're going to get the best team hoisting the trophy. And at the end of the day, circuitous route, you got to the best team hoisting the trophy last year. Again, I know it's not going to happen every year, but more often than not, it is going to. Yeah. That's better, in my opinion, than the way the regular season used to be, which is like, oh, well, you take 2 losses and you're out. Why? In the NFL, nobody goes 17-0. That doesn't happen anymore. The Chiefs can lose 5 games, but if they get it right at the end in January and they beat the best teams in the league, they are the champion. Like, we crown champions a certain way. Now, I understand it's college sports. There will always be a subjectivity because of the size of it. Mm-hmm. Unless you're going to have a 136-team playoff, there's always going to be a level of subjectivity. There's always going to have to be a level of an opinion to set the field. There's always going to be a committee. But I get it.
Yeah, but we're going to see the best team. We're really judging like who's the best team at the end.
Yes.
Right.
And we're not spending all season arguing about it and then hoping that a mix of computer and human polls throw the right 2 teams in the mix. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Well, last year we saw Indiana emerge out of nowhere, and this year it seems to be Texas Tech. That looks very, very strong going in and just really spending money on their program. Is this new money era in college football going to keep producing these surprises, do you think? Or do you think it'll settle down at some point into some sort of equilibrium?
No, I think we're in a new phase here. First of all, parity has changed. I think it's not NFL style parity where any team can win any given week, for instance. But because you're still going to see, Oregon was 35-point favorite over Oregon State last week and they almost covered. So, you still have a massive disparity. But what I do think is, I think it's sort of like the middle third is of the power conferences. I think the middle third is kind of rising to the point where Vanderbilt can beat Alabama, for instance. That's the thing that I think is interesting. So I am still trying to figure out where exactly things are settling as far as increased parity. It's definitely happening, but I'm trying to figure out where. And that's another thing to where that's another thing that points positive to you can be the best team and take a loss or 2. Because at the end of the day, if the floor in the sport is rising, you just because you dominated everybody doesn't mean you win 12 games, for instance.
Right. There might be more of an impetus to look at how you lost or who you lost to sort of give you a larger picture of the overall, team as they go through the schedule. Based on your observation, what's a program out there that you think could be the next Indiana or Texas Tech? Like, who's gearing up for next year and the years to come to really try to compete and be good in college football?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a team like Maryland, a lot of young talent, young quarterback Malik Washington. It's a team in a metro area that could potentially tap into some resources. Arizona State is obviously doing it right now, that same kind of way. It's fascinating. The G5 level, obviously, USF, Memphis, those are places that those seem like up and comers at the G5 level. UNLV as well. But I look at those teams. You look at like what Vanderbilt's done, what TCU is doing. Like you look at some of these teams, especially in these metro areas, that there's a level of corporate buy-in that I'm looking directly at with some of these teams, because I think corporate money is now saying, all right, well, the shop's a little bit more legitimate in college football because it's not under the table. The payments have just come over the table. Yeah. We know where it's going. We can track it. We can donate. We can whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily all be cash in a McDonald's bags like our friends at Tennessee were doing a few years ago.
Yeah, I was curious of what you thought about how this is going to affect perceptions of coaches. So, for example, coaches come under a lot of heat if their program's not doing well. But if the perception is out there that if we spend the money, we might go 2-10 this year, but if we spend the money, we can be really good the next year, aka Florida State, for example, as an example of that, where they've already won 3 games. They've already won more than they did all of last season. Can a coach say, hey, you guys just stick with me because next year we're gonna buy a better team? And does that get coaches longer tenures, ironically?
Yeah, but not significantly.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like you look what happens at Florida, what's happening at Florida right now, for instance. At the end of the day, time runs out if you don't perform. Results-based business.
And then finally, looking ahead to 2026, who are some names you think are setting the stage now for what could be a legitimate Heisman run next year? Maybe they're just doing a dry run now. You're seeing signs of development. Based on projecting forward, who you think by next year they're just going to be a load for college football?
Well, it has to be Bryce Underwood. I mean, Bryce Underwood's where the conversation starts and ends, in my opinion. Yeah. Tremendous player, absolute phenomenal athlete, freak show athlete. I'm really interested in how they can continue to build on offense. They're going to have to get him some playmakers on the edge, but we'll see. We'll see if Arch also, if he happens to come back, what he has. Arch Manning will certainly be in the mix. We get another year, Jeremiah Smith, obviously. I think sometimes the Heisman can be like a career achievement kind of Heisman. And for Jeremiah Smith, that could be his Heisman next year as well. Obviously, Ryan Williams comes back for another year. So those are just some players kind of on my short list there.
Does Michigan have to adjust the offense more to Underwood's skill levels? Because you're going in and you have the vestiges of Harbaugh's offense, the more of the old West Coast style with run-oriented. Does Michigan have to open things up more to make him really just the overall centerpiece for them to be a great offensive team and for him to have a chance to win the Heisman?
Well, I think you need to get better playmakers out on the outside. That's what you need. Now, the fact that they're able to run the ball really well with a 3-headed monster now that Jordan Marshall has shown that he can come along. Justice Haynes, a great player as well. That's what you want. That's what you want for a young quarterback. That's the crutch that you need for a young quarterback as they continue to develop. You saw it on Saturday. It's not like he threw for 380 yards on Saturday night against Nebraska. But the fact that they were able to be efficient, they were able to control the game, running the ball, is huge for them. Huge for him in a development sense. He can make mistakes. This is a whole found money year for Michigan, in my opinion. This is, let's see how good this guy is. Let's test some things out. Let's test some limits. Let's find out how good he really is.
Could be an exciting future for the Wolverines. Well, Richard Johnson of CBSSports.com, co-host of the Split Zone Duo podcast. Be sure to check it out, everybody. Thanks for coming on the Heisman Trophy podcast. Really enjoyed talking with you, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. Thanks again, everybody, for listening to the Heisman Trophy podcast. Once again, be sure to like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell your family all about the show. If they don't like to listen to podcasts, they can go to our YouTube channel, our TikTok channel, and see videos of these interviews. Thanks to Katie Lonergan of Notre Dame for getting us Jeremiah Love. Thanks to Chris Vanini of TheAthletic.com. And thanks to Richard Johnson of CBSSports.com. Next week, Jaden Mayava of USC will be here. So long, everybody. The Heisman Trophy podcast streams every Wednesday during the college football season and is hosted, produced, edited, and engineered by Chris Houston. The pod is available on all streaming networks, including Spotify and Apple Music, and features video interviews and bonus content on YouTube and TikTok. We also have a Reddit community. Special shout out to Isaac Lowenkron, and big thanks to Rob Whalen, Tim Henning, and the Heisman Trust for their support. reach out to us via email at pod@heisman.com for feedback and commentary.